Hi guys, it's your girl Amoja, and today we have a very interesting interview for you. We have to welcome a true musical legend, Carl Beaver Henderson. It's a pleasure to have you.
Amoja, thanks for having me on your podcast, girl.
Now, for those who don't know, this man is a pioneer, a producer, a cultural visionary. Beaver has shaped the sound of soca, reggae, chutney, and calypso for over 50 years. From timeless hits like Progress to global anthems like Ganja Planta, he's not just part of the music history, he helped write it. Let's get into the mind of the man behind the music.
I'm a good child. Full disclosure, I'm a good child. I was my mommy nice child, right? So anything else I say after that, don't believe it.
We're going to believe the latter, not the former. Alright, so let's talk about your early life and your influences, alright? You've been shaping music for over 5 decades. Do you remember the first time music moved you?
Oh, I can remember it like yesterday. And people have asked me this before. I was 9 years old. Won't forget that. And it's so weird. It had to be a very spiritual thing, because I remember it was sometime during the week, about between 6, just before 7 o'clock, because news was about to come on. My father was just going to watch news. My mother just hit me a slap behind my head. I thought I'd tell you to go and wash the dishes, boy. Right? Sent me in the kitchen. I finally conceded to go and wash the dishes. As I walk in the kitchen, something just is like, I could just remember like a spark just went off. Next thing I know is like, there was like maybe a couple seconds I didn't know what went on. Next thing you know, I had a mop and I singing into the mop.
Wow.
And someone just tell me, and I watch myself, this is what I'm supposed to do. Stopped, never questioned it after that. And then, for some strange reason, right after that, I asked my parents, I wanted to go and do piano lessons. But you have to remember, in those days, I was 9 years old. Yeah, boy. A long time ago. But in those days, for a young boy to ask his parents for piano lessons was not heard of. In other words, either you're going to play guitar to be a rock star, or you're playing pan. Or if you're playing instrument, play drums or something. It was, piano was too mama boy, So my father really didn't take me on for a while. In other words, nah, he's alright. And well, my father was obviously old school. So for his son to be asking to play piano, boy, he's a mommy boy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of push. Eventually I got them to send me to piano lessons, but they refused to buy a piano. So I had to practice on the dining table top. Actually, just my finger movements on the dining table. Until the piano teacher told them I was serious, and then they bought the piano. Because it was really almost unheard of for somebody that age wanting to play piano.
Right.
Right. And after that, all hell broke loose in the house. Everybody in the family was into music,
Right.
Because my father was a saxophone player, my mother, vocalist, choir, and every one of the kids played piano. Everybody, or something. So always a musical house. And it was a ritual every Sunday morning coming from church that father used to basically educate the kids. And so you come from church, the first thing you hear is Vienna, choir, and symphony, the Handel's Messiah, Hallelujah chorus. And then after that, we'll go into big band, like big band song from Broadway, song Ella Fitzgerald into jazz, all the big band songs. So in other words, the radio in our house never turned on until about 2 o'clock on a Sunday. Yeah, it was a ritual. The old man had an extensive record collection, and we were all educated like that. And the reason the radio went on at 2 o'clock is because at 2 o'clock every Sunday evening, that was the time my mother listened to a soap opera on radio called Dr. Paul. So the house shut down for my mother to listen to Dr. Paul.
Right.
And then after that, when I started playing piano, the ritual thing was after you do lessons, each of the kids were actually coming down. That was a requirement for the teacher. You do a half-hour practice every day. My brothers and sisters, clock was above the piano. As the half-hour reached, click, blam, close the piano. I was slightly different. I never watched that club. And then years later, it's always, because I used to get up sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning and start to play piano. And it's, well, I wasn't named Beaver yet, just Carl on the piano again. And I get a couple of slippers behind my head from brothers and sisters. Because I will go on the piano easily 6 o'clock in the morning, come on 9 o'clock in the night.
Wow.
Because, that is always like I was born for this. And then, so I went St. Joseph Boys RC school. Actually, Jaron's uncle was my teacher. I get some good katas from him. Then went St. Mary's, finished St. Mary's, went into UE here, started doing nat science to do pre-med. I was the designated doctor in the family. So I was doing my, pre-studies for being a doctor. And I abandoned after the first year.
I could only imagine.
My father was broken-hearted. The only time in life we fought, he physically fought, and he told me years later, I was just trying to knock some sense into you. He hit me on the right hand, and well, I tell you, floor me. Alright? But it is what it is. And because of that kind of, friction between us, I left home at the age of 18. But even before that, because my old man actually was a professor on campus, so I grew up on campus. So in between, we had lived in the States, Madison, Wisconsin, so I was in high school in the States, in between St. Mary's. And what firmed the whole thing with music and me and locked it in, I was living in the US when music was at its peak on the planet. Motown had just exploded. I was blessed to see James Brown at his peak. When I tell his peak, he had just done a series when he was live at the Apollo, that tour, the Live at the Apollo tour. Can't remember how I got this ticket, I tell you. There was no line. All I remember, I got a ticket and was just me alone in this seat, some empty seats, but the place was so loud. And it was like a balcony overlooking the stage. And I was privy to be watching James Brown there and watch the whole band operate. And how he operated his band sunk into my mind, and that's how I still operate band up to today. The precision.
My very next question was going to be, who were some of your musical influences, right? And how did they impact you? No, we don't know it's James Brown.
I mean, and when you check other people's biographies and their stories, how James Brown influenced so many different people, right? You see, maybe, a lot of the generation would not know of James Brown. They'll see little clips of him. But James Brown operated his show and his band and his whole operation like a perfectly oiled machine. It was unbelievable. So in other words, James Brown could have been sitting on here and just talking and say, Maceo, give me one, bam, the whole band. And it was just a perfect lock machine. And I started studying that and how to operate units like that. And that is what has drawn some of my success through the years.
Now, what was the energy like in Trinidad's music scene when you started?
All right, so when I came back from the States, I finished off the last 2 years in St. Mary's. And in the first week of school, I met a guy called Robin Imamsha. And we were our two nightmares up to today. I spoke to him two nights ago. We are our nightmares. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nightmare with love. So, I have to understand, when I left here, I was mama's good little boy.
Right.
Went to the US, got exposed to a whole different lifestyle, and those are the days where women now started to burn their bra, hippies. The world was changing. Vietnam War, the world was in turmoil, so it was a whole change. So I come back to Trinidad and find Trinidad is still the same I left it. And then the difference was, again, impressionable. Come up with a Yankee accent.
You were corrupted.
Yeah, I was corrupted with a Yankee accent. And in up to that point, Robin was like a little bully. So Robin heard the Yankee accent and started picking me, right? And I remember I had a schoolmate who had left a couple of years before in Bangsa, and I saw him passing on the hall, an Indian guy named Bali, right? And I said, "Hey, Bali!" But the whole school laughed at me because I am trying to say Bali, but it's coming out my mouth is Bali. And so Robin take on the case, and so we started kind of, and then we realized we're both musicians.
Wow.
And we have worked in and out together for the last 52 years. Because we formed the first band, Last Supper, which changed the whole game in Trinidad and Tobago. Because there were combos and other bands around that time. But we were the new, as they used to call us, the new educated kids. And actually they used to call us the white boy band, because we had one or two fair-skinned guys, because from St. Mary's, right? And actually where we started was in the choir loft of St. Mary's to play for church mass, right? And because there was nothing else to play, we said just jam in the school eventually. And we decided the best thing, go and play in the choir loft, play for church, at least we got a chance to play out.
Right.
And the first church mass we did, well, here in rehearsal, to get them St. Mary's boys to church was a problem. Everybody always has an excuse. They have studies, they have a... When they heard us rehearse, first time, that chapel was filled to full capacity.
Wow.
I mean, so loud, right? So we had audience, and that was our whole aim. And we playing for the mass, and everybody appreciating and listening to the music. Until for those people who are Roman Catholics, there's a time when they give out communion, and normally that's the time when the priest not talking, give out communion. So that's the time you play the longest piece of music. The piece of music we chose was George Harrison's My Sweet Lord. We just thought it was appropriate. It was the longest song, and My Sweet Lord, Hallelujah, Jesus and all that. But not thinking down to the end of this song of George Harrison's My Sweet Lord had Hare Krishna, Rama Rama. And we singing all everybody's faith while the priest is giving out Holy Communion. We were, the next Monday morning, in front of the whole school in St. Henry Hall, whole school, it was publicly announced by the principal, we were not allowed that in the church. Up in that choir loft.
I could have guessed.
Right? So that is why the name of the band was called Last Supper.
That was your last supper?
It was the Last Supper.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, so and we were different. So we always operated on a different head, I guess, because of the schooling and the kind of parental things we had.
Right.
Because Robin was in the same way too, where I guess his parents had some career earmarked for him, because his parents were very high in the public service here, working with the prime minister and ministers and stuff. So I guess they had plans for him. Like me, he abandoned his parents' plans, and we formed the band. I remember I emptied my bank account to buy my first organ. The organ lasted about half hour in the first rehearsal, started to smoke and caught fire, because it was a second. That's all I could have afforded at the time. Alright? But, I mean, we were the young guns, just come out of school. Our first gig was last day of school. So, we came out, young kids, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and nowhere to play. So what we did, in those days, there were two malls in Trinidad and Tobago, Val Park and Starlight. We convinced the both malls that we'll come there once a month, set up in the car park and just play for free. And we did that for about 2 years. And that's how we built up our fan base. There was no social media, and that was our social media.
That was your social media.
Right? And then we got our first gig. I remember was at a girl's 16th birthday party. They'll be 16. We got $60 for that. We didn't care about that. So everything we did after was just buying more equipment. So because we were always into tech. So like you see, you have the big PAs and the snakes, and we started that shit here. And we built the first one, And it was a little embarrassing when we built the first one. On the first gig we did, You plug it and turn on and you're in zzz. But, we just didn't stop, we kept going.
Trial and error.
Yeah. So all the big PAs and things you see all over the country is we started that in the very early 70s. And we kept pushing for that. And then eventually when, I could tell you we're recording, but after Last Supper, we both went into studio. And after a period of studio, Robin formed Chandelier, I formed Fireflight. Right? And that is when the PA war started. Because he had a big PA. And then when I formed Fireflight, it was a slightly different thing. So I'm the one who started the kind of the investment and the contracting part of the industry here. Where my management were 4 or 5 of the top bankers in the country, Martin Daly, top lawyer. I always boast, our board was the most powerful board in Trinidad and Tobago. Because people always used to compare us to like Neil and Massey.
Right.
And we had a better board than Neil and Massey by a mile. Anyway, Rennie Bishop was on the board also. And then, so technology just took off of that. But before that era is when we spent time in studio experimenting, which is part of the documentary I've come out, which is called The Origins of Soca, which explains that nobody invented soca, but so the work musicians were doing, over a period of 10, 15 years. So the documentary has the 5 last living one left of us who were part of that movement of change.
Wow.
Right, so that would have been Mike Boothman, Pelham Goddard, Arthur Marcel from Calian, Robin Imamsha, and myself.
I know there are lots of people who will see this and be like, who are they?
They'll find out. We just 5 left. It wasn't us alone that did it. There are quite a few more that have left us. Like the Clive Bradleys and a couple of other guys. But that changed, and again, it's not to take anything from Ras Shorty, because I would always say Ras Shorty is the godfather of soca.
Right.
But the reason I do that is to let people not be embarrassed or embarrass themselves, to be going all around the world saying Shorty invented soca, because you cannot invent a genre. Because if that is the case, we invented pop, we invented rock and roll, we invented classical. You can't invent a genre. It is a movement of change. So which will explain that in total detail. And you have 5 people who were living it for decades, explain it in detail.
Now, you have moved through or moved across soca, chutney, calypso, reggae, you name it, right? Now, what drives your ability to move so fluidly across genres?
I'm a musician. And actually, I'm blessed to be in that position. And just before you came, actually, I was talking to Jaron how the universe works. The universe, in other words, some people pray, some people wish, some people hope, wherever it is, straight out to the universe. But the universe has a way of just working its magic without you understanding and seeing it almost instantly. So go back to, I was living in the States when Motown exploded. So what impacted me was funk, soul, R&B at the time, which is different. I remember the first, when I was, how old was I? I was 13 at the time. The first record I bought was Aretha Franklin, Say a Little Prayer for You. All right. C. James Brown, Temptation, Supremes. So that kind of music. Now, that era also, the rock music there was not black and white music. So you will find black musicians in rock bands, white musicians playing funk. So
it was just music.
It was just music. So my mindset has always been that just music. So when we came back, when we formed Last Supper, and it was almost like a purposeful thing. Last Supper had African, Indian, Chinese, Douglas, everything mixed. It was individuals that made up all that we are in Trinidad.
Right.
And that set out. And, that concept never left me. So whenever I was, But Last Supper was basically a pop rock band, right? We were kind of the leaders here. We were like the Jackson 5 of the industry at the time. So we played in every graduation female school in Trinidad and Tobago in our span. We played in every female school, Mayfair, Bazaar. I mean, our following were females from 13 up kind of situation because we was just come out of school. So we had that kind of following. Now, during the process, when we got fully going, we were booked all year solid. Sometimes you couldn't get a booking for the band. But come Carnival, we shut down because we were not part of the Calypso fraternity. Because remember, we were pop rock. And then after, it was about 3 or 4 years, I remember I had this urge. I needed because it's so surround us, because it's a party at Carnival time. And being a musician, I ended up playing on the truck of Callian, which was Comets at the time. Callian's truck that year. That was 74. Because I remember we were playing Bassman and Shadow's Bassman, and I come out to play and certain songs. I just needed to experience it because it was around, but we never played it. So I went on their truck. And then I got a message as I came off the truck Carnival Tuesday that Mano Marslin, who had just won Brassarama, was looking for a keyboard player to go on tour. And that was my opportunity. I understudied one of the greats ever happened out of here, a guy called Frankie Francis. I don't know if you know that name.
I heard the name.
And him and Mano Marslin went on tour for a year. And even before I even accepted the gig with Mano, it turned around that Mano's son, which I forgot, Dave Marslin, who was studying at Berkeley at the time, was going to join us on tour. And Dave used to go to school with me since Standard 1 in school. So we had a ball on tour. Anyway, that's a story by itself. So after that, I came back to Last Supper and then took the band on the road for Carnival. They laughed at us when they heard, we were going on the road. They said, but Beaver, there's always a white boy band and it going to last. I remember certain musicians, when we first took off the Carnival Monday, walking on the side of the road, waiting for us, and men talking about, they going to last 2 blocks. We won best playing band in the road.
What?
Right? And as a matter of fact, that year was the first year, again, because of tech, we were the first band, which Robin organized, we were the first band to mic up a drum kit on a truck. Because in those days, the only microphones I had was for the vocalists, right? But we mic'd up the drum kit, and we set Port of Spain alive.
Yeah, play here and all that bass, everything.
Yep, first time.
Wow.
We created that. And then went on, and then after a while, guys became a certain age where those who didn't have the drive and the passion for music, some working in banks, some in insurance, some in business, the band started to fall apart because of commitment, because guys were reaching our age, men looking to get married and looking to their responsibilities. But Robin and myself, we never budged. We just never budged. Eventually, Robin ended up by Cage. There were 2 major studios at the time in Trinidad and Tobago. Robin ended up in Cage Studios. I ended up in SEM Studios on Buckarappa Road. And it was competition. Those are the studios that were competing. So in other words, if they had a hit out there this week, I drop another hit out here. In those days, it was hit for hit, just coming out every single week.
Yeah.
And those days was vinyl records. So people said line up every Friday to buy records and find out what was the latest hits. So that was the nature of the industry at the time. And then Chandelier was formed, Fireflight, and then a whole different level of stuff. But that era is when I did the bulk of my work in studio. And I crafted myself as a producer. I started Denise Plummer's career in studio. Who else? I did there, boy. I won the Road March in 1979 with Posa. Find a party, smoke a party. You're too young to know that. Right after that, I did Shorty's Home Shanty album. actually did with Shorty Abby Blackman's first song, I'm Young and I'm Moving On, and stuff like that, and her brother. And the next year I did, I think it was See Me Only next year, I did King Austin's Progress. And right after Shorty, in the studio at the time was recording, there was a guy called Moheen Muhammad. Muhammad belonged to the Muhammad clan from around West Mastana Bahar. Right. He had the biggest Indian record store, Windsor, on Prince Street. He watched me because we were really good friends, Moheen and myself, because Harry Mahavir's orchestra was inside there recording his albums and stuff. And he was around when Shorty was doing the Om Shanti album. And Moheen watched me, and doing soca. Why we can't take some of the thing from the Creole and put it in our music and create a chutney soca? I said, yeah, brilliant idea. He brought a guy called Anup Jalota in from India, who was a young producer, who is now like the Quincy Jones of Bollywood. Brought him down from India. Put him, Harry Mahavir, and myself in the studio and said, let's come up with something. I want a Japanese soca. That was the first Mastana Bahar pageant album, Start of Japanese soca. So I was at foundation there. I was at the foundation of the whole soca movement chutney. And I was shaping calypso and soca in my special way. Because everybody again, it was a collective effort of the industry of shaping our music and changing it. My impact was how I used horns. And again, I always referred back to my James Brown experience, because calypso horns are normally, as you hear, how foreigners describe it as loose horns. So horns in the Caribbean always, even if you hear reggae music, pa 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 da pa pa pa, always very snap. Even American play the same lines, pa 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 da pa pa, tighter. It's what they call tight horns. And again, because of my North American experience and shaping, I always kept tight horns, and actually that became the sound of Fireflight, which changed part of the industry. So it's a matter of just building up on past experiences and developing stuff like that. Let me see what it was after. All right, so Fireflight was up and running, and then I did Denise Plummer's album. It was the coup. Yeah, during the coup. What is this? Carnival Killer. Byron Lee was involved with Byron Lee and myself were friends for decades. So I went up to do one of Denise's albums in Jamaica, Dynamic Sounds. And one of the songs that Denise wanted to do, I think she wrote a reggae song. I said, no problem. So I'm in Byron Lee's studio, and one of the mornings I'm doing a reggae, and Byron Lee's musical director Neville Hines walked in and said, "Oh, Beaver man, ciao, what is that?" I said, "Doing a reggae for Denise." Neville nearly fell down across the chair, and he said, "That is reggae?" I said, "Oh, stop embarrassing me." He laughed, and he took the morning and explained to me. You know what? I was doing everything musically right, but like every culture, there's a kind of a groove that is different, an interpretation of, and explain to me why it shouldn't be this and why it is this. And then I started moving around a lot with Byron Lee on gigs in Jamaica.
So let's call that musical dialect.
It's musical dialect. I call it musical education.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I was so educated.
Now, what's your approach when building a song from scratch? Do you start with the melody, the message, or the mood?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes some people come with songs, unfinished songs. I have to show them how to structure a song. We have to sometimes structure the song first. Because a lot of the young artists, I've shown how to write in 4 bars and 8 bars. Because if you don't structure your song properly, you have to understand, people listen to music. In other words, don't put yourself as a singer, put yourself as the person listening to the song. And if this song has no structure, you can't dance, stage, whatever it is. So I normally inexperienced artists, I show them how to structure songs
Right.
first. And after that happens, then any direction could go. It could be from the beat, it could be from the kick drum alone, it could be, whatever. Or just to give you an example, the most crazy start of a production I've ever done was when I was doing Shadow's Dingole album, Poverty is Hell. So normally when you start with experienced artists with Shadow, Shadow what? Straight kick, dope. No. With snare. So I start off with the normal pack snare. He said no. Snare only one. So in other words, the snare went with the first bass drum normally. In other words, if you listen to the beat, don't his son talks about a Charlene. If you listen to Poverty is Hell without the vocals and stuff, the rhythm seems back to front. So in other words, there's no rules to start anything. You start with your vibe, with the energy in your vibe. And then there are some songs that just happen. So I'll give you an example of that song that happened. Denise Plum and I leaving. And I recently told this story on radio. Denise and her sister Arlene used to come in the studio. Normally they walk a little cooler, ice, a little flask of rum, a little short coke, some chasers and your cups and stuff. That night they came to do Nah Leaving. They forgot, I think, the ice and the chase, and they were rushing out the home. So they went to St. James by Smokey to top up everything. And then Denise coming into St. James, being a celebrity, everybody has to hail, and she was always the nice, wonderful person, will greet everybody. So they basically left me in the studio for about an hour and a quarter, somewhere around there. When they came back, Beaves, you ready to work? I said, no problem, and I just pressed play. The song was done. Sometimes it's inspiration for that, They left me alone, and I heard the song, and I just went to work. Just this locked into this, and locked into that, locked into that. After that, the only thing left to do was background vocals, the Dolak, and Denise lead vocals. And I did it in an hour and a half.
So do you see it like, sometimes when you're watching a movie and somebody has this great idea, you see it like physics?
No, it's mathematics. I see music. All right, music. Close my eyes. Music is mathematics. I also see music in color. So I know when I'm doing a mix, a final mix or master, there's a certain color I see. Once I see that color, my hands off. I've reached. So I let the universe show me instead of me trying to show the universe.
Interesting. Now, how do you keep your sound evolving while still staying true to your roots? Because you've dealt with everybody, yeah?
Yeah. All right. So, well, first of all, I am what I am. I am who I am. Again, in a DNA from past experience. So you become who you are from your past experiences, and you build on that. But what I've always done is, and I only found out years later, I saw Michael Jackson used to operate. In other words, when you do a session with Michael Jackson, for instance, as a keyboard player, you can come with a synthesizer with tones. You have to wipe your machine clean. So when you go into a session, you build everything from your sound, everything from scratch. So I've always adapted that kind of approach. So I cannot consider myself a sound designer. So like for instance, a guy will come and, start a production, start with a kick. Man may run through about 3-4 different kicks. I might spend 2 days on a kick because I'm hearing a certain kick in my head, and unless I could shape it, I try not to move forward. So I build everything piece by piece. And I'm a tech junkie, so the software I have here now, that man will kill for this right now. I use AI, but from a tech perspective. All right, so again, from the era, come back, the analog era, there was a producer in the studio, there was the engineer, the assistant engineer, musical director, and then musicians and the artists. Now, all I need is the artist here. AI does the rest, that's just me inside. All right, so I have been on top with tech through the years. In other words, my philosophy has always been